All right, mushroom lovers, get ready for a really fun deep dive.
I'm excited.
Yeah, today we're looking at,
I love mushrooms.
I know you do.
I could talk about this all day.
I know this is right up your alley. So
Okay. Right.
ShroomTraders put out a really great blog post recently
Yeah.
called "So You Want to Grow Mushrooms: A Simple Breakdown for Growing Mushrooms from Home."
Catch you.
Yeah, it's a great title.
It is.
And there's so much great information on their website already.
Oh, yeah. They have tons of resources.
But we're going to take this blog post and we're going to break it down into like the most essential
The need-to-knows.
need-to-knows.
Yeah.
So by the end of this deep dive,
You'll be a pro.
you should be able to go out and confidently grow
Yeah.
gourmet mushrooms at home
Absolutely.
using, ShroomTraders products, obviously.
Of course.
So the blog post kicks off by recommending a grow tent,
Right.
which I always thought were for other types of gardening.
Yeah, me too.
But why for mushrooms? Why a grow tent?
Well, I mean, think of it this way. It gives you the control over the environment
Okay.
that mushrooms need to thrive.
Okay.
So you can control the humidity, the temperature,
Right.
airflow, light, all of the things that kind of go into making.
So it's all about control.
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so.
So what about the equipment? What equipment does the blog recommend for this setup?
Well, so, first you're going to need a tent,
Yeah.
grow tent itself.
Right.
And Vivo Sun makes some really great ones.
Okay.
They have different sizes. You can start small
Mm-hmm.
if you want to just kind of experiment and see what you're doing.
Yeah, dip your toes in.
Exactly. Or they have much larger ones
Cool.
if you're ready to, make a mushroom metropolis.
I like it, a mushroom metropolis.
Yeah.
And then what about humidity?
So humidity, that's super important for mushrooms.
Okay.
And they actually recommend two different humidifiers.
Okay.
They have the Vivo Sun humidifier for larger tents.
Okay.
And then if you have a smaller setup, they recommend the Mars Hydro Plant humidifier.
Gotcha. So you've got options.
Yeah, you do.
So we're seeing Vivo Sun a lot here.
Yeah, they make a lot of really good products.
Yeah, clearly the mushroom experts.
Yeah, for sure.
What about airflow?
So airflow is also really important. You want to make sure that your mushrooms have like fresh air.
Yes.
You don't want anything getting stagnant or stale in there.
Right.
So they recommend the Vivo Sun FAE fan and ducting.
What is an FAE fan?
FAE stands for fresh air exchange.
Oh.
So basically it's like a fan that helps to circulate the air.
Okay, so it's just,
Keep it fresh.
keep it fresh.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the humidifier, we've got the fan. What else is there?
Okay, so this is where things get really cool.
Okay, I like cool.
They have the Vivo Sun Wi-Fi tent controller.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so you can actually monitor and adjust your tent's environment right from your phone.
Hold on.
Isn't that cool?
I can control like the climate of my mushroom kingdom from my phone.
Yes, exactly.
That's amazing.
Like a little smart home for your mushrooms.
Okay, so that's very high tech.
It is.
So I can check on like humidity and temperature.
Yeah, you can check the humidity, the temperature. You can adjust the airflow.
Really?
Even if you're not home.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides all this fancy stuff,
The bells and whistles.
what else? What else is there?
Let's see. So they also recommend getting some oscillating fans
Yeah.
to just kind of keep the air moving around inside the tent.
I
And they specifically recommend the E6 model.
Mm-hmm.
And then also LED light strips
Okay.
to provide just a little bit of indirect light.
So mushrooms need light.
They do, but they don't need a lot.
Okay.
It's more like mood lighting.
Okay, gotcha. Like a nice ambience.
Exactly.
And then what about shelving?
Shelving, yeah, you're going to want some sturdy growing racks. And again, Vivo Sun has a variety of sizes.
Oh, they really do have everything.
I do.
Okay, so now we've got our tent, we've got our equipment, we've got it all set up. What about what the mushrooms grow in?
Yeah, so that's called the substrate.
Substrate.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like their food.
Yeah, it's their food. It's their home. It's everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are some good substrates?
Well, so there are a few different options. You can use straw sawdust or pre-mixed substrates.
Okay.
And it kind of depends on the type of mushroom you're growing and your preference. It's like choosing the soil for your garden.
Yeah.
But for mushrooms.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And now we need something to kind of kickstart the growing process.
Right, we need the mushroom spawn.
Mushroom spawn.
Yes.
And that's like their seeds.
Exactly.
Okay. And speaking of making things easy, the blog post also mentions pre-inoculated fruiting bags.
Yes, those are amazing.
Okay, so what are those?
So they're basically like pre-made cookie dough.
I like cookie dough.
Right.
Yeah.
So it comes with the substrate and the spawn already mixed and ready.
Oh, so it's like all in one.
Exactly all in one.
Wow, so I could skip all that other stuff.
You can get straight to the growing.
That sounds pretty convenient.
It is very convenient, especially for beginners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got our grow tent, our equipment, our substrate, our mushroom spawn.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we begin?
Well, first you've got to get all that equipment.
Right.
You can find links to all that stuff in the episode description.
Of course.
But once you have all of that, it's time to set up your mushroom haven.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'll dive into that right after a quick.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back, and we're ready to set up our mushroom haven.
Let's do it.
I'm excited. I feel like we're, building something really cool here.
Yeah, it's like a fun project, but with delicious results.
Exactly. So the first step, the blog post says, is to assemble the grow tent.
Right. Just like putting together any piece of furniture.
Gotcha.
Follow the instructions.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
So then once the tent is up, where do I put it?
You want to find a good spot for it somewhere that's cool and dark.
Okay.
Out of direct sunlight.
All right.
So, maybe a basement corner, a spare room.
Okay.
As long as it's not too hot or drafty.
Gotcha. So like not by a window.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
You don't want the sun beating down on it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So I found the perfect spot. I cleaned out my closet.
Nice.
Now it's time to put all the equipment in.
Yes. Time to deck it out.
I like it. So where do I start?
Well, the blog post doesn't really specify an order.
Okay.
But they do emphasize setting up the fresh air exchange fan and ducting first.
Right, the FAE fan.
Yeah.
To get that airflow going.
Exactly. You want to make sure that you have good ventilation from the start.
Makes sense.
And, of course, get that Wi-Fi controller set up.
Oh, yeah. Got to have my mushroom overlords.
Right. You want to be able to keep an eye on everything.
Exactly, even when I'm not home. Okay, so ventilation's done. Controller's ready to go. What about the climate? How do I adjust that?
So you'll want to aim for a humidity level between 80 and 95%.
Okay.
And a temperature between 55 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit.
Gotcha. And are those just like general guidelines?
Yeah, those are general guidelines because different mushrooms have different preferences.
Right, they're all unique.
They are.
Like us.
Just like us.
So how do I know what's best for the type of mushroom I'm growing?
Yeah, so each mushroom variety has its own ideal microclimate. Right. Just like different plants thrive in different environments.
Makes sense. So like what about oyster mushrooms?
So oyster mushrooms love it cool and damp.
Okay.
Like a foggy forest floor.
Right.
So you'll want to keep the temperature around 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And the humidity close to 90%.
Wow. They really like it humid.
They do.
Okay. What about lion's mane?
So lion's mane, they prefer things a little bit warmer, but they still like it pretty humid. Think of them like enjoying a sauna.
Gotcha, but not too hot.
Right, not too hot.
Okay.
So for lion's mane, you're looking at a temperature range of 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit.
So a little bit warmer than the oyster mushrooms.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've got our climate dialed in. Now, what about the substrate?
Right, the substrate.
You mentioned straw, sawdust, and premixed substrates.
Yeah.
Is there like a best choice?
I mean, it really depends on the mushroom you're growing.
Okay.
And your personal preference. Straw and sawdust, those are more DIY options.
Okay.
You can find specific recipes online or in mushroom cultivation guides.
Right.
Pre-mixed substrates are more convenient.
Right.
It's like choosing between baking from scratch or using a cake mix.
So it's like the easy way out.
Pretty much.
Okay. I like easy.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say I've picked my substrate. It's ready to go in the tent. Now what?
Now it's time to introduce the mushroom spawn.
Right, the spawn.
Yeah.
That's what gets everything going.
Exactly.
So do I just like sprinkle it on top?
So it depends on the type of mushroom and the substrate.
Okay.
Sometimes you sprinkle it, sometimes you mix it in, sometimes you layer it.
Oh, wow. There's like a whole art to it.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, so what about the pre-inoculated bags?
Oh, if you're using those, you get to skip this step.
Real?
Yeah, the substrate and the spawn are already mixed and ready to go.
That's so convenient.
It is super convenient.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just put them in the tent and I'm good to go.
Pretty much just maintain that right environment.
All right, and then the mushrooms just do their thing.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I am ready to talk about those mushrooms.
Me too. Let's dive into that. So we've talked about, the setup, the equipment, all the stuff you need to actually grow the mushroom.
Right.
But now let's actually talk about the mushrooms themselves.
Yeah, the good stuff.
The stars of the show.
The gourmet mushrooms that we can grow at home.
Exactly.
The blog post specifically mentions oyster lion's mane and Shiitake.
Yes.
What makes these good ones to grow at home?
Well, I mean, for one thing, they're all relatively easy to cultivate, even for beginners. And they're super versatile in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You can do so much with them.
That's what I like to hear. So let's start with oyster mushrooms.
Okay.
I've seen those at the grocery store.
Yeah.
But what makes them a good choice for home growing?
Well, they have this really delicate, almost seafood-like flavor.
Really?
Yeah, the blog post even suggests thinking of them as like vegetarian scallops.
Oh, wow.
You could sear them up with a little lemon.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And what about their growing habits?
So they prefer cooler temperatures,
Okay.
around 55 to 65 degrees,
Right.
and high humidity, like close to 90%.
Wow. So they like really humid?
They do. They
Yeah.
do. They're like the cool kids that hang out in the misty forest.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
What about lion's mane?
Lion's mane. So those were really popular right now.
Yeah, I've heard they're like really good for you.
Yeah. They have a lot of potential cognitive benefits.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, some studies have shown that they can help improve memory focus,
Wow.
even nerve growth.
So they're like brain food.
Pretty much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do I grow them?
So they like it a little bit warmer than oyster mushrooms,
Okay.
between 60 and 75 degrees,
Right.
and still pretty humid.
Gotcha.
Think of them like they're enjoying a sauna.
Okay, so a little warmer, but still that humidity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, shiitake mushrooms.
Shiitake.
They're like a classic.
Yeah, they are a classic.
So what makes them so special?
Well, they have a really rich, earthy umami flavor.
Mm.
It adds a lot of depth and complexity to dishes.
Okay.
And they've been cultivated in Asia for centuries.
Why?
And they're prized for both their culinary and medicinal properties.
Medicinal properties.
Yeah, so in some cultures,
Yeah.
they're considered to have immune-boosting and cholesterol-lowering properties.
Wow. So they're good for you and they taste good.
Exactly. They're like the overachievers of the mushroom world.
I like it.
Yeah.
So what do they need to grow?
So they prefer a similar temperature range to lion's mane.
Okay, so 60 to 75.
Yeah, around there.
Okay.
But they're not quite as picky about humidity.
Oh, okay, so a little more forgiving.
Yeah, a little more forgiving.
Okay, so we got our oyster mushrooms, our lion's mane, our shiitake.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how, each one has its own little personality.
They do. It's like getting to know them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
figuring out, how to make them happy.
Exactly.
Well, I'm ready to start growing.
Me too.
I feel very inspired.
Good.
And remember, everyone, ShroomTraders is here to help you
Absolutely.
every step of the way.
We have all the equipment, all the resources.
Yeah, check out the episode description
For links to all that stuff.
for all the links to everything that we mentioned.
Yes. And,
What are you waiting for?
get out there.
Get out there and grow some mushrooms.
Just start growing.
Happy growing, everyone.
Happy growing.
And until next time,
Keep on diving deep.
keep on diving deep.